All right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday. And you know, the Chateau Yquem event has become an annual tasting right around Valentine's weekend. Hey, and if it falls on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night, it is our Valentine's Day tasting. Yes, you know, hey, Valentine's is on a Tuesday. We'll usually do it on that Friday or Saturday, that weekend, you know. Tuesday, I don't want to say it's hard to get people out on a Tuesday to drink 10 different vintages of Chateau Yquem, but it just seems to work. You know, the sweet wines of the world, although 100 years ago, all the wines were sweet pretty much, I've kind of been forgotten about. They're called the dinosaurs of Bordeaux, and, you know, it's a bottle business for the most part, but Chateau Yquem is one that's kind of stood the test of time, and it's an incredible state to visit, the biggest state in all of Sauternes, which is south of Bordeaux, and the southernmost in the Haut-Médoc. And it is unique because they actually let the grapes sit out on the vines and rot before they make the wine out of them. That's right. It's called the noble rot botrytis cinerea, and it shrivels the grapes down. So, you know, if you were going to make, say, for a fine wine, one grapevine would produce a bottle. For Chateau Yquem, one grapevine produces one glass. So you need 4 times as many grapes to make the same amount of wine with a sweet wine like Sauternes. And Chateau Yquem is considered the first of firsts. And it has its own microclimate. It sits on top of a hill. And they make about 10,000 cases, or they can in certain vintages. And hey, in some years they don't make any at all because they just don't get the right conditions. And the conditions to make a great Sauterne completely different than making the red wines of Bordeaux. You know, you don't want rain at harvest. You don't want rot with red wines. Botrytis does not taste good in a dry red wine. So a lot of times the great Sauternes vintages are completely opposite from the great vintages of the red wine of Bordeaux. And hey, we had some great old vintages set to go down all the way back to 86. But thank you, Dr. Yquem. He provided the 1971. And you know, a lot of people feel like 71 is the GOAT, the greatest vintage of all time. And you could put 67 in there. And for me, it's 2001. You know, I don't like the wines when they get that old. When they come to Sauternes, I want to say they become something else, almost Madeira-like. If you look at the color here, very different, brown. And I don't want to say this one had a little more oxidization than I wanted because it was still a great bottle. And hey, I got a vote for wine of the night. And what an incredible experience just to taste a wine that old. And hey, the latest, greatest thing in Bordeaux, the dry white wines, the Y or Aigrette, the Chateau Yquem, 80% Semillon, 20% Sauvignon Blanc. And like I said, it's hard to get arrested with a sweet wine today, but the dry wine's becoming more popular, but they make a tiny amount of them in Sauternes, and they're always the first letter from the house. Sauternes would be S to Sauternes, Giraud, G to Giraud, and Y is pronounced Aigrette in the French language. And this wine, very rich. It's got a lovely kind of melon, fig, and a little bit of a floral note to the nose, some French oak spice in there, and a really lovely creamy texture on the palate, but a firm hand of acidity, freshening things up. And we had that wine to start all the other wines we had with dinner. And I'll tell you what, Sauternes is my favorite wine to pair with food. You've got jalapeno, sea salt, popcorn, gorgonzola cheese, of course, blue cheese, one of the classic pairings with Sauternes. Foie gras is going to be on the table. You know, we had dessert, our coconut cream pie, amazing with all these Sauternes. And then pork belly and tuna poke. Yes, Sauternes and sweet wines can handle spice, they can handle salt, they can handle sweet. Just an array of different foods you can pair with them. And hey, the 71's still very good. Even on the second day, you know, you get a little bit of molasses kind of note to the nose, really rich, a little fudge in there, and lovely sweetness on the palate. It finishes dry, very well balanced, and I think it's even better on the second day. You know, sometimes the old wines need more time to open up, so don't be afraid to open your wine, I want to say an hour, 2 hours ahead of time. Even with Sauternes, you're going to benefit from a little time in the glass. And hey, the 86, a great vintage for the reds, not for Sauternes. This one is very nice. I want to say it's a little bit overly sweet, not as acidic, and really not as much botrytis, not as much of that honeyed character you get in great vintages like 1988, a classic vintage for Sauternes. And hey, 88, 89, and 90, 3 great vintages in a row, which rarely ever happens. But this wine had a lovely bouquet. You get a little orange peel on the nose, some candied peach, and wow, just lovely balance in this 1988. You know, it got a lot of votes for second place. As Ricky Bobby says, if you ain't first, you're last. I mean, we only give you 2 votes just in case there's a tie. And a lot of great vintages on the table. 89, you know, when you open up this many old wines, you're going to get one that's not right. And damn, if the 89 didn't have a slight amount of TCA, and that's just a little musty note, which, you know, it did blow off over time. And got 1 vote for second place. Some people like that funk known as TCA, but I want to say if we would have got a perfect bottle, it would have been a different result with the 89 because that wine still has lovely fruit. It's got lovely acidity to it, lovely freshness. The TCA kind of dumbs the fruit down a little bit, so not as impressive as a perfect bottle would have been. The 03, this is one of the great vintages of all time. If you remember, 2003 was really hot. A lot of French people died in Paris because they don't believe in air conditioning, just the old ones. And the 2003, just exotic. It has got a ton of fruit, residual sugar higher in this than any other wine on the table, but it still has the acid. And you know, that's the thing about the great sweet wines of the world. As sweet as they are, they have to have the acid to balance that out. So all that richness up front, and then the acidity dries your mouth out and makes you yearn for another sip. I could drink a whole bottle of this 2003, and yeah, it's got coconut in it. Like I said, just multi-layered on the finish, that honey character. It's got a lot of botrytis. Absolutely fantastic Chateau Yquem. Hey, the 2008, a little bit more classic, maybe kind of like the 88, you know, a little lighter in style, but nice balance in this wine. I mean, not quite as much honey in there, but yeah, very good. The 88 got 2 votes for second. The 11, there's something about the ones, 2001, 2011, 2 great vintages for Sauternes. A lot more richness here, a lot more botrytis. And yeah, really long finish, lovely acidity, lovely freshness here. One of my favorite vintages of Chateau Yquem. And I like them, I want to say the last 2 decades are my favorite. You know, they need a little bit of time. This 2016, maybe a little young, but it's got a lovely pear and peach kind of aromatics to the nose. Just a little bit of that honeyed character starting to come out. That botrytis character really doesn't come out for a few years in these wines, but lovely freshness as well. And then, hey, the 2020, this wine is exotic. I love the 2020 Yquem. I remember the first time I had it, we had the winemaker here, Lorenzo, a couple years ago, and it was just released. I was like, oh my God, it really hasn't changed much. You know, I want to say it needs a little bit of time because you don't have that exotic honey character, but you get this lovely pineapple upside down cake here, and just lovely richness, a lovely creamy palate, wonderful hand of acidity. And hey, at the end of the night, it wasn't half the vote. We went to the 2003, but almost every single wine on the table got a vote for first. Only the 1989 did not, and the 2008, but they both got votes for second. Hey, a great night. Chateau Yquem on Valentine's Day. You couldn't come up with a better theme for a sweet wine tasting. The greatest sweet wine in the world, Chateau Yquem. And that is what I had to drink last night. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying, remember, always drink the good stuff first.